Günther Prien was a German U-boat commander in World War II. He was the first to earn the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross as a U-boat commander and the first kriegsmarine member awarded the Knight's Cross with oak leaves in Nazi Germany. This was the nation's highest military honor when presented to Prien. Under Prien's leadership, U-47 was credited with sinking more than 30 Allied vessels, totaling roughly 200,000 gross register tons, as well as the British battleship HMS Royal Oak, while it was anchored at the Home Fleet's base in Scapa Flow. Prien, one of 3 children of a judge, completed his basic education. By age 5, he lived with relatives notary Karl Hahn and his wife in Lübeck, where he attended the Katharineum, a humanistic secondary school. After his parents' separation, he moved with his mother and siblings to Leipzig, where she struggled to make a living selling peasant lace. To help support his family, Prien joined the Handelsflotte, German merchant marine, in mid-1923. Prien applied to and was accepted into the Finkenwerder Hamburg Seamen's School. After 8 years of work and study, starting as a cabin boy on a sailing ship, he passed his exams and became the 4th officer aboard the passenger liner SS Hamburg. He gained skills in telegraphy, ship handling, leadership, and maritime law. By 1931, Prien had become a first mate and pursued further training for a commission. He earned his Seamaster's certificate in January 1932. Unable to find work due to the collapse of Germany's shipping industry during the Great Depression, Prien was forced to join the Freiwilliger Arbeitsdienst, or Voluntary Labor Service, also known as the FAD, earning a living by dredging fields and digging ditches. In May 1932, he became a member of the Nazi Party but had to resign upon entering the Navy before Hitler's rise to power. His party membership shaped his image as a Nazi supporter, though some have described it as career-driven opportunism rather than deep political belief. One author noted, "It is hard to determine his politics." However, Donald McIntyre characterized Prien as the most Nazified U-boat captain and an ardent, ruthless Nazi. In January 1933, Prien applied to the Kriegsmarine upon learning it offered officer candidate programs for merchant marine officers. He was accepted into the Kriegsmarine as part of Crew 31 for the 1931 incoming class, but had the age and experience of a 1926 class member. Prien underwent his military basic training with the 2nd Company, 2nd Division of the Standing Ship Division of the Baltic Sea in Stralsund. During this period, he was promoted to Fähnrich zur See, or Naval Cadet, on March 1st. He then attended the main cadet course at the Naval Academy Murvik and various weapons courses for cadets in Kiel. From the 1st of October 1934 to the 30th of September 1935, Prien served as a watch and division officer aboard the light cruiser Königsberg, earning promotions to Oberfähnrich zur See, or senior midshipman, on January 1st, 1935, and Lieutenant zur See, or acting sub-lieutenant, on April 1st, 1935. He then transferred to the U-boat training force and attended the U-boat school in Kiel, where his training included a specialized torpedo course aboard U-3. On the 11th of May 1936, Prien was appointed first watch officer aboard U-26, serving under Werner Hartmann, with whom he had bonded at the training school. At Hartmann's request, Prien was assigned to his submarine, which participated in the Spanish Civil War in 1937. Rising steadily in rank, Prien advanced from midshipman in 1933 to Oberleutnant zur See, or sub-lieutenant, on January 1st, 1937. On October 1st, 1937, he was sent to the Germania Werft shipyard in Kiel for construction training on the new Type VIIB U-47. He commissioned U-47 on December 17, 1938 as part of the Wegener flotilla and was promoted to Kapitänleutnant or Captain Lieutenant on February 1, 1939. Günther Prien married in 1939 to Ingeborg. The couple had 2 children. Ingeborg Prien later married an Oberstleutnant in the Bundeswehr and changed her name to Inge Sturm Prien. The Second World War began during Prien's first patrol aboard U-47, coinciding with Germany's invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. Prien had departed Kiel on August 19 for a 28-day mission. On September 5, he sank the British Bosnia, the second ship of the war lost to a U-boat. At the time, prize regulations required him to stop the vessel, so he surfaced, fired a warning shot, and identified her as British. The ship attempted to escape, but after 6 hits and a fire in her sulfur-filled hold, it was forced to stop. Prien arranged for a passing neutral Norwegian ship to rescue the crew before finishing Bosnia with a torpedo. He later sank 2 more British ships, Rio Claro on the 6th of September and Gartavan on the 7th of September. His use of the deck gun was unusual and noteworthy. U-47 returned to Kiel on September 15th, having sunk 8,270 gross registered tons in total. Prien was recalled early by Dönitz to stagger U-boat returns and ensure continuous patrol coverage. On the 1st of October, 1939, Karl Dönitz was promoted to Konteradmiral, Rear Admiral, and assumed the role of commander of the submarines, or Befehlshaber der Unterseeboote. Encouraged by the sinking of the aircraft carrier, Courageous in September 1939, he dismissed claims that Britain could eliminate the U-boat threat, stating on September 28, "It is not true Britain possesses the means to eliminate the U-boat menace." Dönitz worked to convince Hitler that 300 operational U-boats were necessary for decisive success against Britain. From the war's outset, he was drawn to the idea of attacking the Royal Navy's anchorage at Scapa Flow to secure a major victory for his command. During the First World War, 2 German submarines had attempted similar missions but failed. Undeterred, Dönitz ordered U-16 to reconnoiter the area and requested Luftwaffe reconnaissance. Reports from air and sea indicated an 18-yard gap in the northeast entrance between block ships sunk near Lamholm and the mainland. Dönitz chose Prien and U-47 for the mission, considering him his best commander, later stating that Prien possessed all the personal qualities and professional abilities required. Prien departed port on October 8th, navigating the shallow waters of the North Sea without briefing his crew until mid-mission. He avoided all ships, remaining on the seabed during daylight whenever possible. On the evening of October 14th, he neared Orkney, surfacing 4 hours from the anchorage. While on the surface, he witnessed the aurora borealis, which illuminated U-47 and increased the risk of detection. In his post-patrol report, Prien described the conditions as disgustingly light, noting that the whole bay is lit up. At 10 p.m., Orkney's navigation lights were switched on for 30 minutes, enabling him to fix his position. When his watch officers spotted a merchant ship, he dived to evade it but tracked the vessel, conducting a practice attack. Despite the lights, he was unable to see the target through the periscope. With visibility too poor underwater, Prien decided to execute the attack on the surface. Prien pressed forward, navigating the narrow entrance to the Sound. Initially choosing the wrong channel between Lamholm and Burre, he realized the mistake in time. Disregarding Dönitz's suggestion to pass south of the 2 block ships, he instead steered between the central and northern block ships. The strong tide facilitated a rapid entry, but U-47 temporarily ran aground. Only by reversing at full power was the submarine able to free itself. 27 minutes past midnight, U-47 entered Scapa Flow. To his surprise, Prien and his watch officers found the anchorage nearly empty, but eventually identified what appeared to be 2 battleships. In reality, there was only one, the Royal Oak, alongside the 6,900-ton seaplane tender Pegasus. At 12:55 a.m., Prien launched his attack, concluding at 1:28 a.m. At 12:58 a.m., U-47 launched 3 torpedoes from its bow tubes, with a 4th jamming inside. 2 missed their target, but 1 struck Royal Oak's bow at 1:04 a.m., jolting the ship and rousing the crew. Though damage appeared minimal, the starboard anchor chain had been severed, crashing noisily through its slips. Initially, the crew suspected an explosion in the forward inflammable store, which housed kerosene and other materials. Aware of HMS Vanguard's mysterious detonation at Scapa Flow in 1917, an announcement was made over Royal Oak's tannoy to check magazine temperatures, but many sailors returned to their hammocks, unaware they were under attack. Prien maneuvered his submarine and fired from the stern tube, but missed again. Reloading the bow tubes, he turned back and launched 3 more torpedoes at Royal Oak. This time, all struck their target at 1:16 a.m., detonating in rapid succession amidships. The blast tore through the armored deck, obliterating the stokers, boys, and marines' messes while knocking out electrical power. Cordite ignited, sending a fireball surging through the ship's interior. Royal Oak listed 15 degrees, enough to submerge its open starboard portholes. It then rolled further to 45 degrees, remaining momentarily before sinking at 1:29 a.m., just 13 minutes after Prien's second salvo. The tender Daisy II, captained by John Gatt, had been moored alongside Royal Oak's port side for the night. As the battleship began listing to starboard, Gatt ordered Daisy II cut loose. For a moment, the vessel became stuck on Royal Oak's rising anti-torpedo bulge, lifting briefly from the water before breaking free. Many crew members who had managed to abandon Royal Oak wore only night clothes and were unprepared for the frigid sea. A thick layer of fuel oil coated the surface, choking men as they inhaled and swallowed it, further impeding their attempts to swim. Of those who tried to cover the half-mile distance to shore, only a few made it. The battleship's port-side pinnace was paddled away from the sinking vessel using wooden boards, as there had been no time to raise steam. Overloaded with desperate survivors, the boat capsized 300 meters from Royal Oak, flinging those on deck into the water and trapping others below. Gatt switched Daisy II's lights on, and he and his crew pulled 386 men from the water, including Royal Oak's commander, Captain William Benn. The rescue efforts continued for 2.5 hours until nearly 4 a.m., when Gatt, unable to find more survivors, transported the rescued to Pegasus. Assisted by boats from Pegasus and the harbor, he was credited with saving nearly all the survivors, an act that earned him the Distinguished Service Cross, the only military decoration awarded in connection with the disaster. Around 5 minutes after the sinking, Pegasus signaled the port station with "General, send all boats," and 30 minutes later followed with, "Royal Oak is sinking after several internal explosions." Of the crew, 835 perished, either going down with the ship or succumbing to injuries. Among them was Rear Admiral Henry Blagrove, commander of the 2nd Battle Squadron. The toll included 134 boy seamen under 18, marking the greatest loss of young sailors in a single Royal Navy action. Of the 7 torpedoes fired, several malfunctioned or missed their mark. At 2:15 a.m., U-47 exited Scapa Flow at flank speed. In his war diary, Prien wrote, "A pity that only one was destroyed." He mistakenly believed he had also damaged repulse which was not present, while Pegasus remained unscathed. He also logged, "I still have 5 torpedoes for any merchant targets that come our way." At first, the British were uncertain about the cause of the sinking, considering the possibility of an internal explosion or an aerial attack. Once a submarine strike was deemed the most probable explanation, swift measures were taken to secure the anchorage, but U-47 had already slipped away and was en route to Germany. By late morning on October 14th, the BBC broadcast news of the disaster, which was intercepted by German listening stations and even U-47 itself. The following morning, divers sent to investigate the wreck found fragments of a German torpedo, confirming the method of attack.
It was believed that an enemy submarine was responsible for this disaster, which cost Britain so many brave lives.
On October 17th, First Lord of the Admiralty, Winston Churchill officially informed the House of Commons of Royal Oak's loss, first acknowledging the raid as a remarkable exploit of professional skill and daring, before asserting that the sinking would not significantly alter the naval balance of power. That very same day, Prien and his crew reached Wilhelmshaven at 11:44 a.m. and were immediately greeted as heroes, learning that Prien had been awarded the Iron Cross First Class and each man of the crew the Iron Cross Second Class. Hitler sent his personal plane to bring the crew to Berlin, where he further invested Prien with the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. This decoration, made for the first time to a German submarine officer, later became the customary decoration for successful U-boat commanders. Dönitz was rewarded by promotion from Commodore to Rear Admiral and was made flag officer of U-boats. For Dönitz, the operation was a major success. While U-boat production did not increase immediately, he had succeeded in capturing Hitler's attention. Nazi propaganda seized on the victory, boasting about the blow to British morale. Although Prien reportedly disliked being used as a propaganda figure, he cooperated with the Reich Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda and met with Joseph Goebbels. This conference was notable as the first time the Nazis publicly highlighted an individual military success. American journalist William L. Shirer met Prien but was unimpressed, describing him as cocky and a fanatical Nazi. The claim that Prien had simply followed a ship into the harbor was quickly dismissed. He remained silent about his actual route. In autumn 1940, Prien published a book about his experiences, Mein Weg nach Scapa Flow, or My Way to Scapa Flow. One historian remarked that, for a story of potentially high propaganda value, it is told with striking restraint. The media, however, compensated for this modest tone. Illustrierter Beobachter glorified Prien, publishing numerous images of him, his crew, and Hitler, portraying him as a national hero. Other state-controlled outlets quickly spread these sentiments throughout Germany. Prien earned the nickname Der Stier von Scapa Flow, or the Bull of Scapa Flow in English, and a snorting bull emblem was painted on U-47's conning tower. This symbol soon became the insignia of the entire 7th U-boat flotilla. According to First Watch Officer Engelbert Endras, the inspiration came from Prien's posture as U-47 entered Scapa Flow. His frowning face and hunched shoulders reminded Endras of a bull in a ring. During wartime, U-boats had their identification numbers removed from the conning tower, and commanders often applied their own insignia instead. Two members of U-47's crew from the Scapa Flow raid later received the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross, Chief Engineer Johann Friedrich Wessels and First Watch Officer Engelbert Endras. The German Naval Command kept secret that Prien had fired a total of 7 G7E torpedoes at his target, with only one from the first salvo striking and exploding near the bow, close to the anchor chain. The stern torpedo failed to hit or detonate, while the second salvo successfully struck and detonated. The Kriegsmarine had long struggled with persistent issues in torpedo depth control, steering, and faulty magnetic detonators, problems that continued to plague U-boat crews for some time. Under Prien's command, U-47 departed Kiel on November 16, 1939, with First Watch Officer Oberleutnant zur See Engelbert Endras and Chief Engineer Oberleutnant Johann Friedrich Wessels. On November 28th, U-47 targeted a British cruiser which Prien identified as a London-class vessel. He intended to fire a spread of 3 torpedoes, but only one successfully left the tube, detonating in the cruiser's wake. When Prien raised the periscope, he believed he saw major damage to the stern, with its starboard torpedo launchers displaced and an aircraft tilted. U-47 surfaced to pursue but was driven off by depth charges from the escort. The target was later confirmed to be HMS Norfolk, which suffered no damage from the detonation. The Befehlshaber der U-Boote War Diary, dated December 17, 1939, noted that while a hit had been observed, the cruiser was not sunk. However, German propaganda falsely claimed that the Bull of Scapa Flow had destroyed the vessel. When the British Admiralty inquired, Norfolk reported itself undamaged, believing the explosion in its wake to have been an aircraft bomb. On December 5, 1939, U-47 encountered a convoy of 9 merchant ships escorted by 5 destroyers. At 2:40 p.m., Prien fired a single torpedo. Continuing attacks on Allied shipping in the western approaches, U-47 struggled with torpedo failures. Of the 12 G7E torpedoes carried, 8 either malfunctioned or missed their targets. On December 18, 1939, U-47 returned to Kiel via the Kaiser Wilhelm Canal. Prien's claims from this patrol were recorded in the War Diary on December 17, 1939 as an unidentified steamer, Norwegian tanker, and Dutch tanker. Total claimed 31,000 gross registered tons, plus 1 British warship damaged. However, the actual tonnage sunk was 23,168. 3 ships were confirmed lost: SS Navasota from convoy OB-46, south of Fastnet, tanker MV Britta, south of Longship's Lighthouse, and Tanjandoan, south-southeast of the Lizard. From Navasota, 37 sailors perished, while 45 were rescued by merchant ships Escapade and Clan Farquhar. The Louis Scheid rescued 62 men from Tanjandoan, though 6 were lost. Britta lost 6 crew members, while a Belgian vessel saved 25. Prien's 4th patrol began on February 29, 1940 from Kiel. His former first watch officer, Endras, had been replaced by Oberleutnant zur See Hans Werner Kraus. U-47 set course for the North Sea, passing the Shetland and Orkney Islands. On March 1st, it arrived in Heligoland for a 4-day stop. Returning to sea on March 11th, U-47 sank Britta on March 25th. The submarine reached Wilhelmshaven on March 29th, concluding the patrol. Britta was torpedoed without warning northwest of Sulskeri, resulting in 13 casualties. 5 survivors were rescued by the Danish ship Nancy. Torpedo failures continued to trouble the U-boat fleet, but sinkings increased in early 1940. Eager to join the ranks of aces like Prien, U-boat commanders took greater risks, frequently launching surface attacks at night. By February 1940, the Admiralty recorded that 58% of attacks were conducted this way. In April 1940, the OKM devised Operationsbefehl Hartmut to support Operation Weserübung, the invasions of Denmark and Norway. The objective was to shield Germany's amphibious landings along Norway's vast coastline from the Royal Navy and French Navy. Since the German surface fleet was incapable of winning a large-scale naval battle against the British, Donitz relied on U-boats to compensate for this disadvantage. However, the defective G7E torpedo rendered the U-boat fleet ineffective throughout Weserübung. Torpedo failures contributed significantly to Germany's naval defeat in the battles of Narvik. Prien was part of a group patrolling east of the Shetland Islands, Vagsfjord, and Trondheim. U-47 departed Wilhelmshaven on its 5th patrol on April 3rd, returning to Kiel on April 26th. Prien's first watch officer remained Oberleutnant zur See Kraus. The submarine was among a 28-strong fleet, nearly the entire operational force deployed to waters off the Norwegian and British coasts. The German offensive triggered an immediate Royal Navy counterattack, leading to intense battles at Narvik. Meanwhile, the Befehlshaber der U-Boote main adversary, the Royal Navy Submarine Service, achieved some success, crippling and forcing the scuttling of Karlsruhe off Kristiansand. The gloom that hung over Prien and his crew was lifted, if only briefly, by joyful news from home. His wife Ingeborg had given birth to a healthy baby girl on April 7th. With a touch of characteristic naval humor, Dönitz sent a telegram to Prien announcing the arrival of a new U-boat without a periscope. Ein U-Boote ohne Seerohr ist heute angekommen. A photograph signed by Prien shows the happy family, likely taken while he was on leave between U-47’s 5th and 6th war patrols. Yet even with this joyful news, the reality of life aboard U-47 could not be forgotten for long. The persistent torpedo issues, the gnawing monotony, and the ever-present threat of enemy warships loomed large. Ordered to lie in wait, the boat spent an entire day in the depths while more than 20 depth charges exploded overhead. Perhaps the most damning episode involving the defective torpedoes took place on the night of the 16th of April in Bigenfjord near Narvik. Prien fired 4 torpedoes at close range into what was essentially a wall of stationary enemy ships. None struck true. Refusing to give up, he reloaded and launched another salvo, only for history to repeat itself. One torpedo veered off and detonated harmlessly against a cliff face. Matters worsened when U-47 ran aground on an uncharted sandbank, damaging an engine during the desperate struggle to free itself. Disaster was narrowly avoided as several enemy vessels, including 2 battle cruisers, remained unaware of their presence. To break free, crewmen had to dash back and forth inside the hull to rock the vessel loose. The whirring propeller carved a foaming trail astern, yet the U-boat remained lodged fast. Tramp, tramp to starboard, then back again and again. Tirelessly, the crew stomped along the casing, each motion nudging the boat. Gradually, it began to sway. With each pass, the propellers whipped whirlpools into the clear fjord. Air hissed and bubbled at the bow. Finally, after a tense few minutes, the U-boat broke free with a scraping groan and a sudden lurch. The faulty torpedoes were not only failing to detonate on impact, but were also exploding prematurely, an issue that would lead to the loss of several U-boats. Prien narrowly escaped such a fate following an encounter with HMS Warspite 2 days after the Bigenfjord fiasco. Firing 2 torpedoes from just 900 yards, neither found its mark. One detonated too soon, immediately alerting enemy destroyers. Hemmed in and under threat, Prien barely managed to slip away. By April 19th, he had lost all confidence in his torpedoes. With 10 failures from 10 launches, he refused to waste his remaining 4 on a tempting convoy spotted on the return trip. Given the damaged engine and high risk of exposure, it simply wasn't worth it. Frustrated, he sent an angry message to Dönitz, stating they had been sent into battle with wooden rifles. In his full report, Prien wrote, "We found ourselves equipped with a torpedo that refused to function in northern waters, whether using contact or magnetic pistols. For all practical purposes, the U-boats were without a weapon." The report was a devastating blow to Dönitz. The U-boat commander-in-chief admitted of the operation. "I doubt whether men have ever had to rely on such a useless weapon." In at least 40 attacks on Allied warships, not a single sinking was recorded. Dönitz appealed to Erich Raeder, who was forced to acknowledge the dire situation. As a result, he ordered all but 3 U-boats to return to port, with the remaining vessels assigned to continue reconnaissance patrols. The 4th and 5th patrols of early 1940 marked the least successful period in Prien's otherwise stellar record. U-47 had been at sea for 43 days, firing most of its torpedoes with just a single confirmed kill to show for it. It was clear that something had to change. Had even half the torpedoes fired at Bigenfjord functioned correctly, Prien might have helped secure a swifter victory in Norway, perhaps even eclipsing his legendary success at Scapa Flow 6 months earlier. Dönitz recognized as much and expressed his respect for the man who remained one of his most valued U-boat commanders. During his 6th war patrol, Prien intercepted convoy HX-47, part of the HX convoy series. The patrol, which began and ended in Kiel, focused on shipping routes in the North Atlantic and the Bay of Biscay west of the English Channel. Prien led a Wolfpack and made tactical decisions for this patrol line. Wolfpack Prien planned to strike convoy HX-47, 400 nautical miles west of Lorient, before it could meet its homeward-bound escort. During the attack, he sank the Balmoralwood, a merchant ship that had fallen behind. The vessel was carrying 8,730 tons of wheat and 4 aircraft. On the 21st of June, San Fernando from convoy HX-49 was sunk. The vessel carried 13,500 tons of crude oil and 4,200 tons of fuel oil. All crew members appear to have survived. Prien's patrol claimed 6 more ships, with the most notable being the passenger liner Arendora Star, sunk west of the Aran Islands. The 14-year-old vessel went down with heavy loss of life, carrying hundreds of German and Italian internees bound for Canada. Of the approximately 1,300 passengers, 200 guards, and 174 crew members aboard, 805 perished. The Befehlhaber der U-boat accredited Prien with 10 ships sunk, totaling 66,587 gross registered tons, making his 6th war patrol the most successful U-boat mission to date. U-47 remained in Kiel until the 27th of August 1940, when it set out on another patrol. Krauss once again served as Prien's first watch officer. This 7th patrol took U-47 into the North Atlantic west of the Hebrides. Upon its conclusion, Prien was ordered to the U-boat base in Lorient, occupied France, where the submarine arrived on September 26, 1940. The Battle of France and Germany's control of the Atlantic coast provided the Befehlshaber der U-boat with new bases, enabling U-boats to operate deeper in the Atlantic and extend their patrol durations. Prien was credited with sinking 6 ships and damaging another. His largest target was Titan, a vessel of over 9,000 gross registered tons from convoy OA207. During the patrol, U-47 lost 1 crew member overboard, while 89 men from the targeted ships survived and 6 were killed. Prien's most significant success came against convoy SC-2, where he claimed 4 ships sunk after U-65 guided him to the scene. The attacks were conducted on the surface in the dark Atlantic night amid poor weather conditions. U-28 also sank a ship, but Otto Kretschmer in U-99 failed to score a hit. Dönitz, hoping for a decisive battle, was disappointed by the outcome. He then ordered Prien to serve as a weather boat at a position 23 degrees west, primarily to assist Luftwaffe air fleets engaged in the Battle of Britain. On the 30th of August, signals from the 53-ship convoy were decoded, revealing its position, timing, and arrival schedule, allowing the Befehlshaber der U-boat, or BDU, to deploy Prien and a Wolfpack into action. Prien knew where to search, as Dönitz and the BDU had been intercepting Admiralty codes and relayed the intelligence to him. This led to the sinking of Ville de Mons in just 10 minutes, with all but 1 of the crew surviving. The captain later reported encountering 3 U-boats, 2 of which surfaced and inquired about his ship's identity. The survivors were eventually rescued by an Allied merchant vessel. The attack was cut short when a short Sunderland patrol aircraft appeared, forcing the U-boats to break contact with the convoy. Prien was part of a Wolfpack that engaged convoy HX-72. While searching for a previous convoy, they encountered HX-72 instead. Although the operation was a German success, Prien only managed to damage 1 ship with his last remaining torpedo, while other U-boats sank 6 vessels. The Germans waited for the convoy's sole escort, Jervis Bay, to turn away before launching their attack. Prien maintained contact to direct U-29, U-43, U-46, U-48, and U-65 into position. In total, 12 ships were sunk, amounting to 77,863 GRT. During this patrol, Prien was credited with sinking 35,005 GRT of shipping and damaging another 5,156. On September 21st, U-48 took over shadowing duties, allowing U-47 to disengage. Prien embarked on his 8th war patrol aboard U-47 on October 14, 1940, the last with Krauss as first watch officer. The patrol covered key North Atlantic sea routes from the North Channel to Rockall. A 5-boat U-boat group, initially too far to intercept convoy SC-7, was redirected to assist. While attempting to reach SC-7, Prien formed a Wolfpack with U-28, U-38, U-48, and U-100. On the morning of October 19th, U-47 spotted convoy HX-79 just as its 10-ship anti-submarine escort arrived. By evening, only U-28 failed to reach an attack position. On October 20th, Prien launched his assault, sinking La Estancia, Bilderdijk, and Vonby, with Chirac also believed to be among his targets. When combined with Prien's hits, Focke-Wulf FW-200 bombers from I-Gruppe of Kampfgeschwader 40 brought the total losses to 12 ships. While still at sea, Prien received a message on October 21st informing him that he had been awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with oak leaves the previous day. He was the 5th member of the Wehrmacht and the first from the Kriegsmarine to receive the honor. U-47 returned to Lorient on October 23rd. To mark Prien's awarding of the oak leaves, actors Heinz Rühmann, Hans Brausewetter, and Josef Sieber performed a parody of the 1939 song Das kann doch einen Seemann nicht erschüttern, or That Won't Shake a Sailor, composed by Michael Jerry for the film Paradies, Der Junggesellen, or Bachelor's Paradise. The reworded lyrics mocked the British, changing the refrain to Das muss den ersten Seelord doch erschüttern, or That must shake the first Sea Lord, a jab at Winston Churchill. The song also referenced Neville Chamberlain and satirized Rule Britannia, incorporating a Germanized English phrase, Die Waves zu rulen ist jetzt Schluss, the rule of the waves is over. Prien's 9th War Patrol began on the 3rd of November 1940 from Lorient, taking U-47 into the North Atlantic, west of the North Channel. After 34 days at sea, the submarine returned to Lorient on December 6th. During this patrol, Prien damaged Gonzalo Velho on November 8th and sank Ville d'Arlon while damaging Conche on December 2nd, 1940. The tanker survived Prien's attack and later withstood a 3-torpedo salvo from U-95 before finally sinking after a single torpedo strike from Otto Kretschmer's U-99. On February 20th, 1941, U-47 departed Lorient for its 10th and final war patrol. Prien operated well south of the main Wolfpack concentrations, intercepting and repeatedly attacking convoy OB-290. His solo attacks resulted in the sinking of 2 ships, but further attempts to strike the convoy were unsuccessful. West of Ireland, Focke-Wulf FW-200 bombers sank 7 ships from the same convoy, marking the most successful German air intervention in the Atlantic. The simultaneous operations of U-boat concentrations between Iceland and Britain, the success of the FW-200 at sea, and Operation Berlin, in which Scharnhorst and Gneisenau patrolled the convoy lanes, made this a tense and strategically complex period for the German Admiralty. U-47 disappeared after engaging convoy OB-293 on March 7th. Prien's attack triggered a 5-hour pursuit beginning 23 minutes past midnight on the 8th of March. At 5:19 a.m., he was caught on the surface and dived, but could not evade the swift depth charge assault from the escorts. U-47 is widely believed to have been sunk by the British destroyer HMS Wolverine west of Ireland. The submarine was hunted by Wolverine and HMS Verity, which alternated covering each other's ass-dick blind spots while deploying depth charge patterns. U-47 was reportedly forced close to the surface before sinking, followed by a powerful explosion with an orange flash visible from above. Other British accounts described a large red glow deep below the surface amid the detonations. To this day, no official record confirms the fate of U-47 or its 45 crew members. Various theories exist, including the possibility of striking a mine, suffering mechanical failure, being sunk by its own torpedoes, or falling victim to a later attack, possibly by the corvettes HMS Camellia and HMS Arbutus, though no kills were confirmed. Posthumously, on the 18th of March, Prien was promoted to Korvettenkapitän, or Corvette Captain, equivalent to Lieutenant Commander, with the promotion retroactively effective from March 1, 1941. Prien's death was kept secret until May 23, when Churchill personally announced it to the House of Commons. British propaganda broadcasts had repeatedly taunted German listeners with the question, "Where is Prien?" until Germany was forced to confirm his loss. The official announcement appeared in the Wehrmachtbericht on the 24th of May 1941, stating, "The U-boat under the command of Korvettenkapitän Günther Prien did not return from its last patrol against the enemy. The loss of the boat must be assumed." Recognizing Prien's significance, the Reich Ministry of Public Enlightenment and Propaganda sought to minimize the impact of his death by burying the news within reports detailing the tonnage sunk by U-boats. A quiet end for a loud career. One biographer noted that, unlike Kretschmer, Prien was a strict disciplinarian who seldom allowed personal sentiment to interfere with the operation of his boat. His crew reportedly resented him for this. He carried deep-seated bitterness over his challenging early life. While he could be genial among fellow officers, his reputation among subordinates remained poor. The 1958 war film U-47, Captain Lieutenant Prien, directed by Harold Reinl, was loosely based on Prien's combat record and his command of U-47. He was portrayed by German actor Dieter Epler. In the 1957 U.S. TV series The Silent Service, Prien was played by Werner Klemperer in the episode The U-47 in Scapa Flow. Prien was the focus of a highly idealized 1981 biography by German author Franz Kurowski, Günther Prien, Der Wolf und sein Admiral, or Günther Prien, the Wolf and his Admiral. German scholar Hans Wegener categorized Kurowski's book, published by the far-right Drüffel Verlag, as an almost perfect example of a skillful distillation of the Nazi interpretation of the Second World War. Canadian historian Michael Hadley also analyzed the book's underlying narrative and objectives. Kurowski sought to honor the meritorious soldier and human being Günther Prien, who is forgotten neither by the old submariners nor by the young submariners of the Federal German Navy. A claim that would have surprised many in Germany in 1995. The West German Navy, then known as the Bundesmarine, Federal Navy, initially considered naming the guided missile destroyer commissioned in 1967 after Prien. However, the myth that Prien had distanced himself from Nazism, joined the German resistance, and was imprisoned at the Wehrmachtgefängnis Torgau was later debunked. As a result, the ship was instead named Lutyens in honor of Admiral Günther Lutyens. A street in Schönberg, Plön, named Günther Prienstrasse, honors his legacy. According to Bush and Roell, Prien completed 10 war patrols, sinking 30 merchant ships totaling 162,769 gross registered tons, one warship with a displacement of 30,450 tons, and damaging 8 merchant vessels for 62,751 GRT, along with one warship of 10,196 tons. However, Blair disputes this, stating that the heavy cruiser Norfolk, listed as damaged, was in fact unscathed. Korvettenkapitän Günther Prien wurde ausgezeichnet. Awards and decorations: Wehrmacht Long Service Award, 4th Class. Iron Cross, 2nd Class and 1st Class. U-boat War Badge with diamonds. Diamond-studded Navy Honor Dagger. Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross with oak leaves. Knight's Cross as Captain Lieutenant and Commander of U-47, and 5th Oak Leaves as Captain Lieutenant and Commander of U-47. While Prien's character and command style can be debated, his accomplishments cannot. His name will forever live on as one of the most legendary submarine commanders in history.